Hello, and welcome to Arts and Entertainment.
With Chris and Randall.
I'm Chris,
I'm Randall.
and welcome to the show. As always, if you're new to the show or you're recurring to the show, I always like to ask you to please like, share, subscribe, and comment. We always like to know what you think of our episodes, if you have suggestions, if you think we could do better. Randall, what's the best way to reach us?
Well, first of all, I just want to tell you, go to our website, chrisandrandall.com. Lots of different ways to reach us there. Our Facebook page, Arts and Entertainment with Chris and Randall, is popular. You can talk to us there. We're both on Facebook. Email us. Yeah, lots of different ways.
Cool. Well, we like to always hear from you guys. We're always looking for new suggestions for new episodes. So please, this is a community, and you're a part of it, and we want to hear what you have to say. So I have to give all of our listeners and viewers a warning. Do not listen to or watch this episode on an empty stomach. I'm just warning you. If you're on a diet right now, if you're kind of hungry and you haven't eaten in a couple hours, this might be the episode you might want to just wait for, because this time we're talking about one of my favorite things, pizza. Randall, are you a big fan of pizza?
Yeah, I enjoy pizza, yes.
So this episode is been inspired by something I came across the other day. Apparently in 2009, upon Italy's request, Neapolitan pizza was registered with the European Union as a traditional specialty guaranteed dish. And in 2017, not too many years ago, the art of making it was included in UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage. So the art of Neapolitan pizza in Italy is considered cultural heritage that needs to be protected. So I was like, oh, cool. So it's actually, without an argument, considered a form of art.
What,
So
Chris,
today,
yeah. I was just going to ask you, what's a Neapolitan
yeah,
pizza, Chris? Do you know?
well, we'll get into that. Pizza actually comes from Naples, Italy. Pizza's been around for a very long time. So pizza apparently has been around since, get this, the Neolithic age. In 6th century BC, Persian soldiers of the Achaemenid Empire during the rule of Darius the Great baked flatbreads with cheese and dates on top of their battle shields. The ancient Greeks supplemented their breads with oils, herbs, and cheese. But in 16th century Naples, around the time actually of Caravaggio, a galette flatbread was referred to, or galette, Galeette, so pronounce it how you're supposed to. This flatbread was referred to as pizza. Now, at that time, it was not yet what pizza looks like today. It's kind of similar to what we just described with the oils and the herbs and the cheese. But in the next century, Europeans would come to America, to the New World. They would discover tomatoes, which for a while, people actually thought of tomatoes as poisonous.
Yeah, they're part of like the nightshade family or something
They
like
are
that.
part of
And
the nightshade family. So for many years, people avoided it. But in the late 18th century, who's going to eat the most dangerous food that no one else will touch, Randall, in any society?
probably poor people, but
You got it, buddy. You win.
all right.
Congratulations. So poor people added tomato to their yeast-based flatbread. So this pizza, as we come to know it today, is really more in the late 18th century. This becomes such a big deal that the people from Naples go into the poor area of the city to try the local speciality. People come from all over. In 1807, there were 54 pizzerias in Naples. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, I know. Alexander Dumas, the guy who wrote all those great novels, he in 1848, he wrote about all the variations of pizza he found in Naples. He couldn't believe it. By the end of the century, they have 120 pizzerias. So pizza in Naples, Neapolitan pizza. So what is the Neapolitan pizza? It's uh, now I've had it in Italian pizza as they have it, not in America, but Naples would be a very thin crust, a small amount of marinara sauce with a special tomato, the Manzini tomato. By the way, I found out how did marinara got its name. You have any guess?
No, I don't. How?
What does marinara sound like? Or what is Naples food-wise really famous for?
I'm thinking seafood.
Yeah, like mariner, right?
Okay, marina. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, when the men went out to sea, they come home. The seaman's wife, the mariner's wife, would make a special dish with a sauce, a tomato sauce. So the mariner's wife. That's what I'm not. I'm not joking.
You know what? It totally makes sense because she's sitting around waiting for her husband and his buddies to come back home, and so she's got a lot of time to let that sauce simmer, right?
Yeah. And it is a special part of foods in Italy are really very much deeply ingrained in the culture. So pizza makes its appearance in the United States in the late 19th century, early 20th century with the arrival of Italian immigrants. I've actually been to what many people would argue is the first pizzeria in America, Lombardi's on Spring Street. It was built originally as an Italian grocery market in 1897. And Mr. Lombardi would sell these tomato pies wrapped in paper and tied with string at lunchtime to workers from the area's factories. But in 1905, Gennaro Lombardi received a business license to operate a pizza restaurant, and soon he had clientele, including the Italian tenor Enrico Caruso. So here's a little piece of interesting stuff. During the great period of American wealth in the early 20th century, they would bring artisans from Italy to build all sorts of great marble structures, all bricks of great. They were known as the great craftsmen of buildings. So New York City, for example, New Jersey, a lot of the Northeast where there was wealth, turn of the century wealth, there were all these Italians there, and pizza was something they knew from the old country.
So they wanted pizza.
They wanted pizza. It's what they knew. It was cheap. It was poor. They didn't make a lot of money. Soon, pizzerias would sprout out throughout the Northeast, including in 1925, Frank Pepe would open his pizzeria in New Haven. His cousin Sal would open one right down the block called Sally's. They would become two of the most famous pizzerias in America. When Sal died in 1982, he had a full-page obituary in the New York Times, and 2,000 people attended his funeral. I've actually been to Pepe's. It is amazing pizza. But pizza as a popularity, and it's so interesting because we keep on doing this. We just did a piece on 4th of July. We've done this with Halloween. We've done this so often. When do you think pizza really becomes a white person's phenomena, for lack of a better word, in America? When do you think it stops just being Italian food?
You want me to take a guess?
Take a mad guess.
I'm going to guess the 1950s, a bunch of teenagers.
Yes, bingo.
Bam!
Something about America, post-war America, that really defines so much, even of the 21st century. So, after World War II, veterans who returned from the Italian campaign were already introduced to Italy's native cuisine, proved a ready market for pizza. The slogan was popular from veterans ranging from the lowest private to Dwight D. Eisenhower. Two guys who had served in the war, Ike Sewell and Rick Ricardo, invented what's called, I swear to God, his name is Rick Ricardo, invented Chicago-style deep dish pizza in 1943. And they opened up their own corner on Wabash, Ohio, Pizzeria Uno. Have you been to Pizzeria Uno?
I think I have in Chicago.
Yeah.
For the
I've been to Gino's in
dish.
Chicago, but I've been to the Unos in New York City. So deep dish, which is already it's really its own thing, because we'll talk about pizza styles very soon. But deep dish is very much an American kind of style, not the thin crust. It's this big, heavy thing. So by the 1950s, pizza chains are popping up like Shakey's. You've been to Shakey's.
Yeah.
That's from
Shakey's.
Sacramento. Pizza Hut in Wichita, Kansas, which I do not know if there's any Italians living in Wichita. Are there any Italians living in Sacramento?
You know what? There probably were at some point.
But again, Little Caesars in Garden City, Michigan in 1959. And then pretty soon thereafter, you have Little Caesars, Papa John's, Round Table, Godfather's, and of course, Pizza Hut.
It was like a craze, huh? It was like,
It was a craze.
well, there was a lot of stuff going on. I know the fast food restaurants were popping up at that time. The interstate highway system was getting completed, so that you had a bunch of people driving around and looking for places to eat. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Fast food is coming a little bit later. But yeah.
This is the rise of the American supermarket and frozen food technology. So while pizzerias and chains are stopping, frozen pizzas are entering the supermarket. People are just picking up pizzas from pizzerias and baking them. So the chilled and frozen pizzas also start happening. And all around, yeah, you're right. By the 1960s, yeah, I would say less than 20 years, really about less than 20 years, pizza becomes the dominant. To this day, get this is an amazing stat. I don't know where I got it from, but it's a stat. Don't write to me and say, Chris, you need to tell us where you get your stats from.
It exists. Is all your
but it
point
exists.
Is.
So I don't know what the adult population of America is. I also don't know when this stat is from. I get a feeling it could be pre-COVID, but on any given day, 13% of the U.S. population consumes pizza. More than 1 out of 10 people. Even right now, if we think of our own listenership, viewership, 1 of you guys, 1 out of 10 of you people, 1 out of 13 of you people, is 13% of you people are gonna have pizza today. I mean,
could I just talk about it from a culinary perspective?
Please do.
Because I think one of the reasons it's so popular is because it is like a cheap, inexpensive food. So you can always eat it. I mean, it's good too. I mean, so it's made basically just bread, and then you can flavor it with whatever you want on top. And because most of the calories come from the bread, it's going to be really inexpensive. I mean, kids love like just cheese pizza. So that's like a really super inexpensive dish for a kid. Most adults don't like it much more complicated, really.
You enter a very important, and we'll get to it, because pizza actually in America today can go anywhere from like $1 to $1,000.
Right. It can be incredibly inexpensive.
In all price ranges, and depending on how bougie you are, like me, we'll get into the economics of pizza in a minute. But
it just is amazing how cheap it can get, though. Yeah.
You raise a very good point, which is. And this is something when we talk about food as entertainment, less so when we talk about food as an art form, but when we talk about distinctly American cuisine, what do you think? If you think what hot dogs, hamburgers,
yeah,
barbecue?
those are our German imports. You think of those, but also I think the most quintessentially American food is really steak, like from a cow or a bison.
Fair enough, but I would say, with the exception of steak,
then pizza's up there for sure.
But if you ask like most kids don't really like steak. I don't know why. Kids don't like steak, and steak's fine, but hamburger is more popular than steak. Hot dogs are more popular than sausages. Pizza is more popular than manicotti. I would argue peasant food, folk food, is the backbone of American cuisine. We like tacos, burritos, gyros, sub sandwiches, hero sandwiches. Americans love food that they can hold in their hand.
Well, America's the great. We're the great peasant nation, Chris. We're on the go.
We're not a cuisine people. Well, there is in American culture a disdain for anything too refined, too upper class. And we love the idea of on the go. We love the idea of handheld foods. We love the idea of variety. We love the idea of democracy and equality. And in many ways, symbolically, pizza does represent that. We'll get into it more in a bit, but let's talk about pizza just as a form of entertainment. and not pizza in entertainment forms. We'll get to that too. But I just want to talk about the most basic level, which is pizza making. Because I have to admit, I've cooked a lot of things in my life. None of them are as fun as making pizza. Wouldn't you say, Randall? You've made pizza. Pizza is a fun activity to make.
Well, I've never I've never made the crust, but I've used like the pre-made crust, like boboli.
Yeah.
And I've made frozen pizza, of course. When I was a kid, I ate a lot of that. But yeah, it's always fun to put something like that together or just pop it out of the box. Yeah, I mean, as as a little kid, like that was like my first
Do you remember
attempt
that
at cooking was
they made
frozen pizza.
children's easy bake ovens, and they made one just to make little children's pizzas?
No, I don't remember that. You tell me about that.
Oh yeah, I mean pizza making, and you're actually kind of right. Like you think you can make a frozen pizza and feel like you've made the pizza. You can put something on the pizza. You can make your own dough. I had a friend who used to make pizza dough when he would come over to visit me, and oh my God, that is so intense. It's baking beyond baking. And you're right. I'm like you. I don't mind getting the boboli kit. I was on a keto diet last year, so I learned how to make cauliflower pizza. I learned how to make almond flour pizza, and I learned how to make fathead pizza, which is dough just made out of cheese, which is crazy. And I don't make any of these things well, but it's communal, right? I like the other day. I went to a friend's house. The guy is a cook, and he just made like 4 or 5 different kinds of pizzas because we were having a pizza party. You ever go to a pizza party?
Well, yeah, I've been to many parties with pizza.
Right, exactly. Right. You go to a party, and most people don't make pizza at a party. Normally, pizza is what you order at a party, right? It's what, like, oh yeah, there's going to be 20 of us. What's that? It's 4. Is 20 people 4 pies, Randall?
Yeah, that sounds all right. I mean, I would probably get more.
Get 5? Okay. That makes sense. Does anybody here want a plain pizza? Probably. There's always someone want a plain, right?
You know what? It's funny. You always get the now that we're getting into the weeds here. Yeah, you always get like a cheese pizza or 2 or 3 because like there's always going to be people that want that. And
I just want it plain.
Right. And then some people always say, "Oh, I want this on it, I want that on it." And then you get those pizzas, and like hardly anybody eats them. I don't know. It's almost like everybody just wants the cheese pizza. I mean,
well, there's the cheese pizza. There's the vegetarian pizza, right? Someone's like, "Oh no, I can't have any meat." So that's always like the mushroom pizza. I went on my news feed on Facebook and I asked people what their most favorite toppings was, and for whatever reason, the most famous vegetable topping, the one that everyone would mention, was not onions, which I love, not peppers, which I love, nothing like that. Not even like sun-dried tomatoes or garlic, which is just awesome. Everyone picked mushrooms.
Oh yeah, that's good on pizza. Mushrooms are good on pizza because they soak up all the pizza juice.
I guess so. I could live without them, but whatever. So there's always a slice, there's always a pie of mushrooms. Then you get into, of course, right, pepperoni.
Pepperoni is popular. Black olives.
That actually, I like olives, but I haven't been going out with someone now for so long who doesn't like olives that I forgot I like olives. That happens when you're in a relationship.
Me and my girlfriend, we always get anchovies, which is really great on a pizza, Chris.
Much respect. Okay. Much respect. People who order anchovies on pizza, you guys are old school monsters. You guys are killing it. When you order, I like prosciutto, which is the fancy man's pizza. I like buffalo cheese. That's a fancy man's pizza. But
what about pineapple?
So here's an interesting thing. Pineapple on a pizza, you know what they call that?
What?
They call that Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
Do you know where it comes from?
Where, Chris?
Canada. In 1962, I don't understand Hawaii had been a state for 3 years. Canada comes up with it, putting pineapple on a pizza, calls it Hawaiian pizza. But you're right, it is really good. Ham on, by the way, seriously, we did warn you. Did we not, Randall? You're going to get hungry listening to this episode. It is a fact. So you can hit pause, come back. We're going to talk about real things in a minute. We're not just going to list topics. But here's the thing. Today, if you are really dedicated to home cooking, you can buy a pizza stone, you can buy the wooden thing, you can buy literally a pizza oven, which is not like what we had as kids. If you're like a culinary person, a home cooker, there's a big debate even in prep. So there is the traditional pizza oven, which you're not going to use at home, but there's also the two different styles, which is wood burning and coal burning. Where do you fall on this one, Randall? Are you a coal man or are you a wood man? You only got those two to choose from.
I don't think it matters that much. I mean, where the heat comes from.
It makes a humongous difference.
Okay.
Wood burning affects the dough one way and coal burning the other. So depending on how soft you want your cheese or how crisp you want your bread, you either go with wood burning or coal. I would say that, and I did this. I went with some friends, my friend Rob Ciccone, who's Italian, and we went to Little Italy, and we had really a top wood burning pizza with buffalo mozzarella and pepperoni, and then we had a top place which did coal, again buffalo pepperoni, identical. And Rob was like, "Yeah, it's the cheese and versus the crust. Cheese is a little gooier with wood. Crust is a little bit crispier and tastier with coal." If you want to make, by the way, here's a hack. If you want to make your takeout pizza taste really good and you have a barbecue, cook it over the barbecue. A charcoal barbecue will replicate quite a bit of the coal oven. And then there's also flash pizza, which is when you cook pizza on a very high temperature. A friend of mine actually started a fairly big business making flash pizza. So people love that. There are pizzerias. So this is where we get into the entertainment, which is the making your own pizza, right? You see this also with sundaes, and you see this with tacos, right? This is another uniquely American form of entertainment where you make your own hamburger, what I call the Fuddruckers effect. Americans love to make their own hamburger. They love to make their own sundae. They love to make their own omelet. There's the bar, right? So have you ever been to a place like a Blaze Pizza or an 800 Degrees Pizza or a Revolution Pizza? I'm not getting sponsored. And they're like, you can put in whatever you like into the pizza, right?
Yeah, right,
it's your
right.
call, man. It's your call. Like, when that happens, do you just throw everything? Or are you selective?
I generally, with places like that, I generally like to go with suggestions, what they suggest. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too crazy, Chris.
When there's a charge per item, I'm like maybe 3 items. When I'm going to one of those places where it's everything you want in a pie, I will throw everything you want in a pie. And let me tell you, no pie should have everything on it. Like, that is not creative. That is in some sense really.
Yeah, you can put too much on a pizza. It's like it I don't know where the limit is, but I've gotten pretty close many times. I've gone over a couple times. So yeah, I mean it can be too much.
It is a kind of a neat thing that these places exist where there's like you can put all the pineapples you want. In some sense, pizzerias, and we'll get to pizza parlors now, are very much aimed towards children. You were talking about this earlier. Children really love pizza in a way because, if you have allowance money, pocket money, you could, when you were a kid and you had like a couple dollars and you were with your buddies, didn't you get pizza?
Yeah, so pizza's good for kids. I mean, it's inexpensive. Kids like it. Fills them up.
You go with your buddies, right? You see a movie and grab some pizza. In New York City, we have slices, not pies. So you could just get a slice. There's a Yale economist who realized that since 1965, a Subway token and a slice of plain pizza are almost always the exact same price. And when one goes up, the other one soon follows. So watch
That's
out, New York
eerie.
City. Your subway token's about to go up. Uh, but that's the thing as a kid. So when I was a kid growing up in New York City, I'd go to pizza parlors. There were fancy pizza parlors that you might go on a special time with your parents, but then there were just the local pizza parlors, and the local pizza parlors would often have pinball machines, which before video games. I went to one that actually had, what's that called, the Japanese pinball or Chinese
Oh,
pinball?
pachinko.
Pachinko. My first pachinko was in a pizzeria. Yeah, so they had pachinko. They would have regular pinball, but it would be a place that you not only get a slice and a Coke, but you'd also hang out, listen to music on the CBS FM radio, and play
Yeah.
pinball or pachinko.
There would
Now,
probably be a jukebox. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like for kids today, but yeah, that was an aesthetic landmark for in childhood for many decades, right? Starting in the 50s, probably. You have the pizza place. It's got video games or pinball, jukebox. It's got the cheap pizza for the kids. They hang out there. I don't know. Is that still going on?
Well, you've been to. I would
Or are they
argue
all
the
at home
most.
playing Pokemon?
You certainly were part of the big entertainment thing. You went to Chuck E. Cheese's.
There was Chuck E.
So
Cheese. They're still going,
tell
Chuck E.
me,
Cheese's.
tell me about Chuck E. Cheese. What's the Chuck E. Cheese?
Well, do you know, Chris, Chuck E. Cheese was started by, I think it was started by the guy that started the Atari 2600.
Are you
And,
serious?
yeah, and he sold his stake in Atari, and then he went and invested in this pizza restaurant, and it was his brainstorm. He thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this pizza joint, the greatest pizza joint in the world, and it's gonna be filled with video games. It's gonna have this huge arcade, and then it's gonna have the pizza, and then we're gonna have the. I think he even thought of having the animatronic band
No, yeah, wow.
at the theater. I think it was Nolan Bushnell. No, maybe not. Maybe it wasn't that guy. But it was a guy associated with Atari, one of the founders. And yeah. So yeah. So maybe we should do a show on Chuck E. Cheese sometime. But they're still
Oh,
going.
tell me. So that's like you go for birthdays, you go for games. Was the pizza any good?
You know what, Chris? I don't want to talk bad about the greatest childhood institution in America right now, but the pizza is, let's just say, it's adequate to meet the needs.
Right. And then there are like what I would call the 1950s, 60s Italian restaurants, which we used to have in New York City and here in LA, which you'd go for pizza. You could get regular Italian food, but you get pizza because it was less expensive. But it was more expensive than that. Elegant table service, waiters, cloths, very nice. You might get a Chianti, and you get pizza. The pizza in these restaurants, I always remember it being thicker, denser, a much nicer quality, but always
There's a restaurant in LA
more
that's
romantic.
Oh yeah, there's a restaurant in LA. There's a couple of them called Miceli's, and
Yes, Miceli's.
these places are very old school Italian type places, and they
Yeah.
serve pizza. So if you go to Miceli's, one of the Miceli's, I recommend maybe. Well, they're both great, but I think there's only two. There's one in North Hollywood. There's one on Hollywood Boulevard. Maybe the North Hollywood one is a little bit more fun. That's the one with the singing waiters. Also,
Oh, nice. See, that's great.
so, Michelle, well, just let me say, if you order a pizza there with garlic as a topping, you'll get nice, fat, whole cloves of garlic on your pizza. They won't
Yeah,
even
if
bother
you-
chopping them.
That's great. Like if you go to Grimaldi's in Brooklyn Heights, Brooklyn, which the picture that I took of I don't know if you can see for you watching, there's a pizza behind me. I took a photo of it. It's a meatball pepperoni from Grimaldi's. Now, Grimaldi's been around for 100 years. It's the exact same building that they had 100 years ago. It's still run by the Grimaldi family. And you're eating in a piece of history. I think for that matter, same with Pepe's, you're eating a piece of history. Like you're having pizza, the same place people have had it for 100 years. The building is the same. You have a really nice sense of history. The ovens are really old. Pizza ovens can last for decades. Certainly, if you consider this an art form and you want to, and I don't know if you could do this right now, but there is, the Pizzeria de Fara's in Midwood, Brooklyn.
No, I don't know it.
Best pizza ever. So de Fara's, is run by a guy whose last name is DeFara, Mr. DeFara. I honestly don't remember his first name, but Mr. DeFara opened up his pizzeria in a Orthodox Jewish section of Brooklyn in 1965. He makes all of his pizzas, he makes all the pies by hand, and he's a really old man. He may not be with us after the end of this audio. He may have retired, but for years, I would go. I'd order a slice. I'd order a pie. Especially order a pie. You just watch him, and he's very fastidious with the way he bakes. He rolls it, puts the cheese, puts the sauce, puts little herbs on it, and you can see like this man's been doing this for over 50 years. And if you ever thought, just if you really want to see something, a chef, culinary, as sport, maybe if not art, just to watch old man DeFara just meticulously take his time. It'll drive you nuts if you're hungry. Don't go there if you're rush. But if you just want to watch this man just delicately and gently really massage it out, really do that, you go, oh man, there's also pizzerias, as I'm trying to say, with a lot of history. There's pizzerias that are really just cool, and mod. Have you been to Masa?
I think I have, yeah. You talking about on La Brea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll give a shout out to my old writing partner, Adam Fleischman, who made 800 Degrees. He launched his first 800 Degrees here in Westwood Village, and he brought in artwork. He brought in architectural pieces from churches from Italy. He built the original. You've been there with me. The original 800 Degrees. It's no longer there, but the wood paneling was from an Italian church. The ceilings, every element of it. So there are so many aesthetically beautiful pizza parlors or pizza dine, just as a form of architecture.
Well, let me just say, you kind of mentioned it before, but the centerpiece of any nice traditional pizza joint is the oven, right? So and usually they have that oven front and center, so that when you walk into the store, you can see it. It's right there behind the counter.
Actually, you're very right. It's one of the few foods where you want to watch them make it.
You want to see that oven, Chris, and So if you ever walk into a pizza joint and they have this giant old oven that looks like it was from the Neolithic era and Neanderthals made it, then that's where you want to eat your pizza. Okay.
Well, there's nothing more fun, and normally pizza's made before you walk into the pizzeria. But if you ever see a guy just flipping dough in the air, that big dough he's got in his hands, it looks like a frisbee that keeps on expanding. And he's just doing it, You've seen that, right?
Right. Well, that's to stretch the dough. That's you're supposed to do that.
Right. It's just the coolest thing to watch in a real pizzeria. It's a giant piece of dough, and it's just you keep on thinking it's going to fly out of their hand. You think it's going to go. No, it's such control. So here's the problem I have with Italy and Naples. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I do agree. I'm happy that they think it's an art form. I'm glad that they have even got it registered as part of cultural heritage. But to me, what Naples is doing is exactly what Germany did with the Reinheitsgebot law. The Reinheitsgebot law was a rules on how beer should be made, and it was very specific. And the French, in the Comedy Française, they put out in the 18th century a series of rules about what a play should look like. And I think the minute you come up with very precise ingredients in food, and precise baking, you actually take something that is no longer an art form, but I would argue artisanship. It's a craft. And this is not a knock on Italy. And first off, I haven't been in Italy. I have no idea what contemporary Italian pizza tastes like. I don't know what they're doing outside. So please, this is just I'm not saying anything, but the traditional, if you only make pizza in the traditional Neapolitan way, and I've had it, it's gorgeous, or, in the traditional Sicilian way, as they have in Sicily, which is wonderful. But if you only make it that way, to me, that's a craft. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I think what makes it an art form, I think that one of the great aspects of art is mutability, right? The ability for you to take a form and manipulate it, rearrange it, to imbue it with whatever you feel or think it should represent or be. And normally, I would argue most art appeals to the senses, and pizza is really, really visceral. So, I mean, right? Because it's smell, touch, and taste. That's
Right.
three
So
senses.
you're saying they've codified the pizza that's going to take all the creativity out of it. I mean, I totally agree with that, but that's the difference between Europe and America. I mean, that's that's how
Yeah,
Europe
no,
is. I mean, Europe, they like to keep doing things the old way, for 1,000, 2,000,
well,
10,000 years. In America,
yeah,
we're we're the innovators, So,
they
I'm
have
not
a
surprised.
history.
Right. Well, I'm not surprised Europe would do that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just what Europe does. I mean, America is the greatest innovator in the world, probably, and it's because we don't give a crap about what happened yesterday. That's, that's how,
Well,
we
I'll
don't
just
care about
say,
tradition here, Chris.
I don't want to get too chauvinistic, but I will say one of the great things about what we've been talking about with pizza is the adaptability. Like every part of America, every region in America has its own take on pizza. For example, there's New York pizza, which is Neapolitan, it's the thin, gooey slice. There's Sicilian, also popular. As we mentioned before, Chicago deep dish, New Haven. Now, New Haven invented putting white clams on pizza. Have you
Oh
had
my
white
gosh, I've
clams?
never heard of this.
Oh, it's
Is it
so
good?
good. Oh, it's great. I love it. It's
What
so
kind of
good.
cheese do you put with those clams?
A white cream sauce,
No
you know.
cheese?
Uh, no, it's like
Wow,
it's like a light white cream sauce,
that sounds
but
pretty
they
good.
with a little bit of pesto, and
Sounds pretty good.
it's so good. You don't need cheese on pizza. You don't
Oh
need
yeah,
bread on
yeah.
pizza. You don't need sauce on pizza. That's the beauty of pizza in
Well,
America.
you need to put something on it because then it's
You
not pizza
know,
anymore. It
but it
becomes just bread.
varies. And then not only varies in seasonings, but like cuts, right? Because like pizza can be any shape. It can be round. When you take it into a slice, it's triangular, but then it's also rectangular. There is square pizza. People in Detroit have it like squares. Uh, it's just shape wise. You can do whatever you like shape wise with pizza. You can make it super thick, like Chicago deep dish. You can make it super thin. You can, I mean, just there's one of the great things about art, right, is the ability to manipulate shape.
Yeah, I mean, pizza, like especially in America, people have come up with all sorts of crazy things to do to pizza, and it's great. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, when you think of pizza, yeah, you're thinking normally of a circle or you're thinking of a slice. But think about that for a second. If I say the word pizza, you might be thinking of a square if you're from a part of America where it's in squares. If you're from a part of America where it's deep dish, you might think of it in a skillet. And that's art, right? Art is like when you say cat, there's no one cat. Or when you say mountain, there's no one mountain or no one lake or no one tree, right? In art, there is really that ability to interpret it.
Yeah,
So,
pizza is a great blank canvas that American culinary artists have been painting on for many, many decades now.
and you can subtract, you can add, you can coerce. Outside of ice cream, I really don't think there's another food that has so many permutations. But ice cream is restricted because all ice cream must be cold,
Well,
whereas not all pizza must be hot.
the great thing about pizza is there's truly a visual element. So
Yeah.
that like if you ordered a pizza or the pizza shows up at your table, it has a look. There's a presentation to go with it. You open up the pizza box and that first look is important. It has to has to look great,
Well,
right?
I think you've actually really spoke about something right because is that it's right. It's visual. So all of
Yeah,
us
there's a visual
respond
aspect.
to pizza either in the negative or the positive, right? But it's so
Well,
personal.
look at the colors
Because,
too. Look at the
right?
usual colors. So you have cheese, which is usually
Yeah.
white or maybe more yellowish, and then you have the crust, which is like a brown, and then you have the marinara sauce, which is a red. I mean, of course, there's a lot of different versions, but you have a big just right there. You have a huge contrast of colors,
Yeah.
and
Actually, that's a good point.
you stick the pepperoni on there. Pepperoni over the cheese. That's another huge contrast. I mean, I mean,
And you have shade and you have tone,
you have
right?
the
Like when you
texture
look
as well. Yeah.
when you look at the cheese or you look at the crust, you're looking to see what part of it got cooked. Is it a little burnt? Do you like it a little golden? Do you like it a little crispy on the side? I told you guys it's not going to be an easy show to listen to. If you're eat seriously, go to the fridge, just eat something while you're listening because it's a painful episode otherwise. So yeah, you're looking at visually, right? You want to see gradations. Some people like a very symmetric pizza. Other people like me, I like the pizza where you can see like the indentations on the crust, where
Hmm.
you can see like the little bit of cooking. You can see where like it's a little burnt a little bit, or where there's no even symmetry to the pepperoni. It's been scattered,
Right.
right?
Well,
There's that one slice that's got no pepperoni, but it's that one slice that has no cheese.
I'm wondering now. I mean, I'm sure there have been people where they get their pizza and they look at it and they're like, maybe they're at a restaurant and it doesn't look right, right? Like
Yeah,
maybe the pepperoni's not symmetrical enough, and then they
yeah.
send it back.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah, no.
somebody's done that.
Look, at this point in my life, I can walk into a pizzeria anywhere in the world, and I can look at that pizza and I can just tell if it's going to be okay or bad. Not even smelling it, just looking at it, I can tell if it's dry. I can tell if it's cheap. I can just literally process. I have in my mind a museum of pizzas. I take photos of pizza as a hobby of mine. As I
Hey,
take
that's a
photos,
great idea. Museum of Pizza. You could do a
you
website.
know, and then we haven't even gotten to what you just mentioned, the boxes, right?
Hmm.
Pizza art is amazing. Again, Adam, when he opened up 800 Degrees, he had up on the ceiling like 12, 20 different kinds of fake pizza boxes, all based on illustrations. But am I right when you see, like, there's some beautiful graphic art for pizzerias, whether it's the pizza that's being drawn or the chef that's being drawn or the logo of the place. But haven't you noticed how like it's pretty groovy and very original? You can almost see what year a pizzeria came into being by the iconic style of art, right? Because every pizzeria only does its box once and never changes it again.
Yeah, a lot of them have. Well, some of them use the same box. I don't know where they buy it from, but some of them, yeah, they have their own weird design. Yeah, that's always a fun part. I mean, it's a big. That's another big canvas. Part of the pizza experience. The delivery, you get the box, and yeah,
And
it's
the
fun,
box
Chris.
often, there's often the chef with the white hat, or there's the drawing of a pizza that your pizza's not going to look like, or there's just a cool logo, right? Like, and they're just all about the cool logo. I don't like Domino's boxes, and I don't like chain pizza boxes. I think they look very boring. Like a marketing team came up with the idea, whereas local places don't have a lot of money, so either they come up with it on their own or they got an uncle who went to art school. But you know what I'm saying is there's a lot of folk. There's something very like
You know,
punk
I
rock
I actually
about
think maybe you're
those
you're
covers.
yeah, I think you're hitting on something here. I think maybe pizza places should get a little bit more creative with their boxes. I mean, I don't know how much it would cost them, but that's a fun little canvas they could be painting on right there.
Yeah, and like again, different pizzerias. There's one out in Northern California. I'm just drawing a blank. Man, they have like the coolest logo for pizza, But that's the great thing. Like you can do that, right? It invites your. There's no way of doing pizza that's blasphemous. And actually, I looked it up on Google. Some people actually make artwork out of the pizza boxes. They redesign it. There's also apparently a drinking game called the Pizza Box game, where you flip a coin and it falls into a word you drink, and if it doesn't fall in a word, you don't drink. So pizza boxes are their own thing, and then there's pizza clothing, there's pizza painting, there's pizza. There's a onesie, a women's onesie. It's just all pizza. Like I googled pizza. Go on, Google pizza later. Look on Pinterest. But there's a lot of like pizza art in this world. It's its own thing. So I'm gonna get to my favorite part, which I've really been holding up on, which is pizza in film and TV. I would love to have done something on music, but all I could come up with is That's Amore, which is actually the first time pizza comes into pop culture is when Dean Martin sings, When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. Of course, he also talks about pasta vazul, but no one ever talks about pasta vazul. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not
But
sure.
let's talk about pizza in film and television. And let's just get this one out of the way first, which is what's up with the pizza delivery man in 1970s porn? It's just there. I had to say it. All right. I just had to say it, right? That's like always some sort of great motif. Some poor dude is just there to deliver pizza. And next thing you know, he's in a tryst.
Well,
Uh,
do you want a serious answer, Chris?
I
from
absolutely want
me?
a serious.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
please.
I think in a lot of pornography, you are sexualizing everyday situations that are normally not sexualized, except in maybe your imagination. So the idea that maybe you're a pizza delivery guy, you're delivering pizza, and there's like an attractive strange woman taking the pizza, then you have sex with her. I mean, that's just like a dark male fantasy. Okay, so you're a plumber, you go and I mean, it's just a fantasy, Chris. It's like men fantasize sexually about having sex with strange women, casual sex, and it never really happens in real life. You know, I
I
mean,
think also
these are
because
fantasies, Chris.
pizza delivery guy iconic. It became a real thing in the 70s. It's a job that a young guy might do.
Yes,
It
yes, I
was
was
a
thinking
kind of
that
just,
too.
it was like a poor dude would be a pizza delivery guy. It's an unsuspecting dude. It's an innocent. There's nothing glamorous. He's not a professional like a plumber. He's just like, I mean, I actually just saw a short film about a pizza delivery woman who ends up dealing with a horrifying man. But it's true, like before there was Uber drivers, millennials or Gen Zers, the Joe job that basically allowed you to, if you had a car, to make a few extra bucks was pizza delivery.
Right.
So
So the pizza
delivery
delivery
was
guy,
like every high school, college students.
right? The pizza delivery guy was probably an attractive young man for a while in America. Not anymore, but
But
like
he was
it's
the dude or the dudette who was just like, I got a car, therefore I can make a few extra bucks.
right. So that helped too. That helped with the
It
fantasy
was the
too.
job of last resort. And then, even the pizza chains, the iconic ones that use animation, like Domino's has the Noids, which they brought back. Did you see that new
Yes,
commercial?
they brought back the Noid, which I'm
Now that they
sure
have a robot that delivers pizza, that's
there's a
insane.
pizza bot. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not a cartoon. That's just real. That's frightening. And then Little Caesars has got the cartoon Caesar, you know. Pizza Hut, I don't know what they had, but it's so iconic, just the red hut,
It's the
you
hut.
know. And if
It's
you
the
even
hut,
go and ordered a pizza for a while, there's like an animated thing you'd watch on their website of how they make the pizza while you're waiting. Like even they are kind of like dealing with it. And then of course, in films, right? It was did you ever see Spaceballs?
Yes. Love
Right. So
Spaceballs.
was it Pizza the Hut?
Pizza the Hut, yes. I
And
just
then
want to say about pizza, like, you'll notice about all these aesthetic touches surrounding pizza. None of them go back to like some kind of tradition. None of them say, none of them model themselves after some like Italian peasant's shack or something.
Oh yeah, you're right. They're all just doing something really wacky.
Like the Noid, there's nothing traditional about the Noid. There's nothing
No.
Italian about the Noid. It's
Well,
like
there's something Italian about Little Caesar, the Caesar and Little Caesar.
a little bit. But I guess my point is like you could see that like the pizza is just this grand blank canvas that people just do whatever they want with. I mean, it's
But I would say if we're talking about pizza as symbolism, there's definitely some stuff that really I think in film and TV is very powerful. If you haven't seen it was a big movie when it came out. It was the introduction of John Travolta to a lot of people. Saturday Night Fever, and Saturday Night Fever opens up to "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees. It's a tracking shot of Brooklyn. It's about these guys from Brooklyn who every Saturday night go out and hit the clubs and dance. We used to call these guys Guidos. They had their hair in a pompadour. They would wear chains and pinky rings and dress really well, and they were studly. And the opening of Saturday Night Fever, there is the young Tony Manero, John Travolta, and he's walking down the street of Brooklyn. He goes into a local pizzeria, real pizzeria still there, orders his slice, grabs his slice, folds his slice, leaves the pizzeria, walks down the street, and eats to the beat. And I gotta say, when I saw that in 1978, the only thought that went through my mind is nothing, because that's how we did it in New York City. When I was growing up, you'd just go to the pizzeria and you'd grab a slice and you'd walk. But man, as a character beat in screenwriting, it's beautiful because it tells you not so much about Tony. It tells you quite a bit about Tony, but it tells you also about the world of Tony. that people in New York are always on the go. They're not that you can dress like $1,000,000, still not get pizza on any of your clothes, and just go to your local place, very unpretentious, eat that thing, walk with it, and you're just part of the Brooklyn scene, the New York scene. What did you think of that opening?
Well, I read that John Travolta came up with that himself. I'm not sure.
Really? Well, he's from New Jersey. It makes sense.
Yeah, because they were shooting the scene, and Travolta just did it, and the director's like, "Why are you doing that?" And Travolta's like, "That's what we do."
Yeah, that's how we do. Right? He's an Italian from New Jersey, no different. Northern New Jersey, no different than or Southern New Jersey. I don't know, but yeah, he probably did it all in his life. And it's like, of course, that's what we do. You don't even skip a beat. That's the beauty of it. It's like, I'm doing my thing. I'm walking. I'm strutting. I'm doing my strut. Oh, pizza, great. Here's a buck. Get my slice. Keep on walking. Doing my thing. It's one of the most quintessentially New York things I have seen in all cinema. Because if you're in New York right now, you don't also go, why is Chris making a big deal of it? It's just what we do. You don't see it in LA.
Well, we do. When I was growing up, we never did stuff like that because with the pizza, because LA pizza usually is thicker, and you wouldn't be folding it like that. It's more crunchy usually. So like, if you fold it like that, it'll just break.
But I think there's also a weird side effect to Saturday Night Fever, which is about youth culture. Is that I think for the next couple of years, pizza was really a signifier for youth culture. Even though adults eat pizza, I'm thinking of some of the great youth culture movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which takes place here in LA, where Jeff Spicoli in Mr. Hand's class orders a pizza. Obviously, in real life, that could never happen. Because how would that have worked? I mean, how would that pizzeria get on? But you remember that scene?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember watching it. I was in high school, and I was, damn, I'd love to order a pizza. That's like a fan. That's really more of a fantasy. You know what I'm saying? That's when the pizza starts not being about this is how we live, but like this is how we dream. If you know what I'm saying.
I'm wondering now if how many kids were in high school at that time where it must have been an epidemic where kids are trying to order pizza in class.
Oh, I'm sure.
After that movie came out.
Just because it's like the most badass thing. It was the most badass thing you could possibly do. And I think this is where you get into like in the 80s, pizza becomes teen fantasy or child fantasy. Like if you ever saw like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles come out first as a comic book and then as a movie. And there's these, it's a comedy. It kind of makes fun of the X-Men. It makes fun of a lot of stuff. But they loved pizza. I remember that about the Teenage Mutant, like that. As badass as they were all heavily into pizza. They were the first superheroes to have any like actual culinary preference. Or did you see Home Alone?
Yeah.
So Kevin actually gets into trouble, gets lost because he gets into a fight about cheese pizza in the first movie. But in the second movie, where he's staying at the plaza and he's living like a king, there's this one shot where he's riding in a limousine eating pizza in the backseat. Well, again, it's that same thing like, oh, yeah, pizza's so badass.
Well, both of those, the Turtles and Home Alone, I mean, they show like how much pizza is associated with the child diet now. Maybe
but it's also it's kind of like a fantasy. It's kind of like a rebelliousness at that point. And then again, weirdly enough, all this is going on in the 80s or early 90s, late 80s. I think it's 89. Could be 88. Young Julia Roberts does this wonderful movie. Very few people have seen it. Vincent D'Onofrio's in it. Lily Taylor Finn, called Mystic Pizza. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, a long time ago.
It's a beautiful movie about young people in their teens and early 20s working in a pizzeria in Mystic, Connecticut. And it's kind of like the best in some sense because it kind of like Saturday Night Fever brings it back down to this is the way we live and this is what it's like to be young and this is what it's like to hold down a job and this is what it's like to work within the confines of the stuff they're working in. And again, as you said, pizza's about youth, pizza's not having money. And it's kind of cool. It's just, I feel like there was just something going on. I don't know why. Around the same time, for no reason, Bill Maher does a movie called Pizza Man. He Delivers. Did you ever see that movie?
No. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's based on the LA pizzeria, but called Pizza Man, He Delivers.
Is it good?
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. It just kind of proves that there's a limit to how wacky you can get with pizza. Interestingly enough, Julia Roberts, what she did, Eat, Pray, Love, and she's got that line about how she's now pursuing a relationship with pizza. I think probably one of the most iconic scenes in pop culture dealing with pizza is season 3. I forgot which episode. It's pretty early on in season 3 of Breaking Bad. Premise of Breaking Bad. Spoiler alert. Don't listen to this if you have never watched Breaking Bad. Won't tell you how it ends, but Walter White lives in New Mexico. He is the high school science teacher. He finds out he has cancer. In order to make sure his family is well taken care of, he becomes a meth dealer, but he doesn't tell his family. And in the 3rd season, his wife, Skylar, finally finds out that he's a meth dealer, he's a drug dealer. And Walter comes home. He's got a big pie pizza for the family because he's a family man and he prides himself on this. It's a great little treat. And Skylar has changed the locks and locked him out and won't let him in because she's so disgusted. And he's so hurt and he's so enraged and he's so upset that he throws the entire pizza and it lands full flat right on the roof.
I think I read about that scene. It was an accident. He was just supposed to walk out and like throw the pizza on the ground or something, and somehow it just flew up on the roof and landed on the roof.
The actor, whose name I'm blanking out, who's the lead from Breaking Bad?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston, in a single take, just using his method, just went with what he felt like, and it just landed just beautifully flat on there, just gorgeous. And it, so you can make a symbol out of something that was never intended to be a symbol because it just all of a sudden means more than it does. And you can read into that the pizza represents the circle that is his family. You can represent that that's all he's able to do now that he's powerless. You can show that he can no longer provide for his family because the pizza, like the money, is now being blocked out by his family that won't let him in. There's like a million ways to read it, even though it, just as you said, may have well been an accident. Apparently, for years afterwards, people found out where that house was and they just go and throw pizzas on it. It's a horrible thing, but it does show you how resonant in our psyche that scene is because of how profane it seems that one would throw a pizza. And it shows you that we really care about pizza in a very deep and emotional way. And that is, again, what makes for art, is things that we have strong emotional attachments to. So thank you very much. I know this was a very enticing episode. That's really all I got to say about pizza. How about you, Randall?
Yeah, may the pizza be with you.
All right. Well, until next then, I'm Chris.
I'm Randall.
Get something to eat.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.